And we are pretty careful to be
in a very peculiar trap. We are convinced that life is a journey, a pilgrimage, with a serious purpose at the end. And the goal is to get to that end successfully, meaning with a certain sense of virtue, of accomplishment, to have achieved something, to have left our mark. But what if the entire affair is rather more like a piece of music or a dance? The meaning of a symphony is not contained in its final chord. The meaning of the dance is not to get to a particular spot on the floor. The meaning of it all is in the playing itself, in the dancing itself. So the question I'd like to explore with you is this: what happens when we stop taking this musical, dancing, swirling, star-like existence so dreadfully seriously? You know, we have this immense burden. We walk around with a constant low-grade anxiety that we are not doing it right, that we are not living properly. We are forever preparing to live. We think, I must get through school to get a good job. I must get a good job to have a secure life. I must have a secure life to raise a family. I must raise a family so they can get through school to get a good job. It's an endless cycle of purpose, where the purpose is always elsewhere. It's never right here. It's never now. We are like people reading a novel who are only interested in getting to the last page. And so we skim. We turn the pages frantically, missing all the poetry, all the drama, all the lovely descriptions, just to see how it turns out. And then when we get there, we close the book and say, is that all? And the whole point of the book was in the reading, in the living through it. We are missing the show because we are too busy looking for the meaning behind the show. We are like a person at a concert who does not listen to the music, but instead reads the score, checking for mistakes. The music is playing all around him, and he is missing the entire point. This is what happens when life becomes a problem to be solved, rather than a reality to be experienced. We build up this enormous structure of seriousness. We have to have the right credentials. We have to have the right job title. We have to have the right kind of car, the right address. We have to be seen with the right people. It's a colossal act, a performance, and we are terrified that the audience will see through the cracks, that they will see we are just making it up as we go along. And of course we are. Everyone is. The secret that nobody ever admits is that nobody really knows what's going on. We're all just playing roles. The doctor, the lawyer, the businessman, the mother, the father. They are roles, they are games. And games are fun, so long as you don't confuse the game with your fundamental reality. The problem arises when you forget you are playing, when you think you are your role, that you are the mask. Then the game becomes a prison. It becomes serious, and you have to defend it. You have to prove you are a good, serious, upstanding, purposeful person. But what is the alternative to all this seriousness? It seems frightening. If I am not serious, if I don't have a purpose, then what am I? I become a nothing, a washout, a failure in the eyes of the world. But this is where we have a profound misunderstanding. We think the opposite of seriousness is frivolity, shallowness, a kind of irresponsible laughter. But that's not it at all. The true opposite of taking life seriously is to see it as play, to see the universe itself as fundamentally playful. Look at nature. Does it look serious to you? Look at a kitten chasing its tail. Look at waves lapping against the shore. Look at the patterns of migrating birds in the sky. Do they look like they are on a grim mission? Do the clouds look like they are filled with existential dread? No, they are simply playing. They are expressing themselves. The universe is, at heart, a musical phenomenon. It is a dance of energy. And a dance has no destination. It is its own reason for being. We have this idea that everything in nature has a purpose. The bird sings to attract a mate. The flower is bright to attract a bee. The butterfly has eye spots to scare away predators. It's all an engineering project. But this is just us projecting our own purpose-driven anxiety onto the world. Why does the bird really sing? Why does the wave really break on the shore? Why does the star really shine? Is it not perhaps for the same reason a child sings, or skips, for the sheer joy of expression, for the fun of it. We say the bird sings for a purpose, to survive. But I must ask, why survive? What is that for? To sing more songs, to have more babies who will sing more songs. You see, it becomes a circular argument. It's like saying the purpose of music is to get to the end of the composition. It misses the point entirely. The Chinese have a wonderful concept. Wu Wei, often translated as non-action or effortless action. It doesn't mean doing nothing. It means acting without straining, without forcing. It is the way of water, which wears away the hardest rock by yielding. It does not strive. It simply flows. And in that flowing, it accomplishes everything. And they have another word for this attitude towards nature: purposelessness. Now, to our Western ears, that is a terrible insult. Purposeless? That's useless. That's a waste of time. But to the Chinese mind, it is the highest compliment. They look at nature and see it as purposeless. The mountains just are. The rivers just flow. They aren't going anywhere. They aren't achieving anything. They are simply expressing their own nature. And in that, they are profoundly beautiful, profound and trustworthy. We think trust means believing that nature will always give us what we want, that it will be safe and comfortable. But that's not trust. That is a demand. Real trust is like the trust you have when you throw a ball. You let go of it. You have faith in the process. You don't hold on to the ball and run to the other person and carefully place it in their hand. You throw it, you let it fly. Life requires that same kind of trust. It requires you to let go, to stop trying to hold everything so tightly, to stop trying to control every outcome. If you do not have this trust, if you do not trust nature, and by nature I mean both the world outside you and your own inner nature, what is the alternative? The alternative is what we have created. It is a world of total mistrust. It is a world where we feel nature has got to be watched. It has got to be controlled. We can't trust our own instincts, our own desires, our own emotions. They are too dangerous. They are too messy. So what do? We create authorities to manage it all. We create rules, laws, systems, bureaucracies. We create a world where the most important thing is not the living of life, but the recording of it. It is more important that your files are in order than that you are a kind person. It is more important that the university's records are perfect than that its library is full of inspiring books. We are so busy measuring life that we forget to live it. We become our own jailers. We are so afraid of making a mistake, of looking foolish, of not being serious enough, that we fence ourselves in. We create a life that is, as they say, all jail and no prisoner, a structure with nothing alive inside it. But life is inherently messy. It is inherently playful. It is inherently spontaneous. You cannot schedule a moment of awe. You cannot program a belly laugh. You cannot force a genuine insight. These things happen when you let go. They happen when you stop taking yourself so seriously. A true scholar, in the original sense, is not someone who studies to get a degree. The word scholar means leisure. A scholar was a person of leisure who studied things not because they were useful, but because they were fascinating, because they were delightful. They studied the charming irrelevances of life, the things that do not contribute directly to survival, but that make survival worthwhile. Poetry, art, music, philosophy, the patterns of stars, the shapes of shells, this is play. And if you do not have room in your life for the playful, life is not worth living. But, and this is a very important but, if the only reason you play is because it is good for you, because it helps you work better afterwards, then you are not really playing at all. You are just working in a different form. You must learn to do things that have no purpose. Pick up a pebble. Look at it. Don't try to get a sermon out of it. Don't try to make it mean something. Just enjoy its texture, its color, its shape. Just enjoy it. Do not feel you have to justify the moment by saying it advances your aesthetic understanding. Just enjoy the pebble. When you can do that, you become, strangely, a healthy human being. You become able to be a loving, helpful person. But if you can only do things because you are going to get something out of it, you are what I would call a vulture. You are circling over life, waiting to profit from it, instead of landing and joining the dance. So, the first step is to see the incredible weight of seriousness we carry. To see the structure of purpose we have built around ourselves, like a shell. And to begin to wonder, what if we could set it down? Just for a moment. What if we could, as the Chinese say, learn purposelessness? What would that feel like? It would feel like the moment you stop striving and simply listen to the rain. It would feel like watching wild geese fly and be hidden in the clouds. It would feel like watching a ship vanish behind a distant island. It would feel like wandering on and on in a great forest with no thought of return. Haven't you ever done that? Haven't you ever just gone for a walk with no particular place to go? You twiddle your thumbs. You hit a stick against a stump. You are in that moment a perfectly rational human being. You have learned the great art of purposelessness. And in that space, life stops being a problem. It becomes a song. And you begin to hear the music that has been playing all along. But this is only the beginning. We have seen the weight. Now we must look at the dancer. We must look at this you that is trying so hard to be serious. What is it? Where did it come from? And is it perhaps also part of the game? So we find ourselves carrying this immense weight. We are playing a role, and we have forgotten that it is a role. We have become convinced that the mask is our true face. That the part we play, the banker, the mother, the student, the failure, the success, is who we are fundamentally. But this you that you take so seriously, this ego, this personality, what is it? Where did it come from? If you look for it, it's rather elusive. It's a collection of memories, a bundle of desires and fears, a certain pattern of behavior. It's a story you tell yourself and others about who you are. I am a person who likes this and dislikes that. I am someone who did this and failed to do that. It is a concept, a thought. And like all thoughts, it is fleeting. It has no solidity. You cannot locate it in the body. Is it in the head? The heart? The brain is an instrument, a fantastic computer, but it is not the operator. The eye cannot see itself. The tooth cannot bite itself. The thinker cannot think itself. This you is a vibration, a pattern, a whirlpool in the stream of life. A whirlpool is a recognizable pattern. You can say, there is the whirlpool, but if you try to grab it, to take it out of the river, you get nothing but a handful of water. The whirlpool is something the river is doing. It is an activity, not a thing. In the same way, what you call me is something the universe is doing, right here and right now. It is a temporary dancing pattern, a gesture, and like a gesture in the air, it is fundamentally empty. It leaves no trace. Now, this can sound frightening. The idea that I am not a solid, enduring thing can feel like annihilation. But is it? Or is it the discovery of your true, vast nature? You are not the whirlpool. You are the whole river. You are not the wave. You are the ocean. We are all actors in this fantastic divine play. And the problem is not that we are acting. The problem is that we are bad actors. We are method actors. We have gotten so absorbed in the part that we've forgotten the curtain will fall. We've forgotten the audience. We've even forgotten that there are other actors on the stage, and we think our role is the only important one. A good actor knows he is acting. He can play the part of a king with tremendous conviction. But when he walks off the stage, he takes off the crown and has a beer. He doesn't go home and order his family about because he was a king on stage. He knows it was a game. The whole of life has a similar nature. It is a drama. It is a play of energy. And when you know that, you can play your part with immense verve, with passion, with compassion, with everything you have. But you won't be deceived. You won't take the tragedies backstage. You won't cling to the triumphs as if they were your permanent identity. You see, when you don't take your ego so seriously, a wonderful thing happens. You begin to relax. The constant low-grade anxiety of having to protect this fragile fictional self begins to dissolve. You can afford to be more spontaneous. You can afford to be foolish. You can afford to make mistakes. Because it's all part of the play. A wave in the ocean is not anxious about crashing on the shore. It's what waves do. It's part of the rhythm. It will gather itself again. In the same way, your successes and failures are just part of the rhythm of your expression. They are not the final judgment on you, because there is no you to be judged in that solid, fixed way. There is only the dancing, the flowing. This is why the Chinese sages praised purposelessness. They saw that nature is not going anywhere. It is just expressing itself. A tree does not purpose to grow. It grows because it is a tree. A bird does not purpose to sing. It sings because it is a bird. We are the same. Our purpose is not some distant goal. Our purpose is to express what we are right now. And what are we? We are the universe. We are nature. We are that same energy that blows out the stars, that shapes the galaxies, that curls the waves. You are not a stranger in a foreign universe. You are this universe, and it is you. So, how do you live this? How do you stop taking the mask so seriously? You don't do anything. That's the great joke. You cannot try to be spontaneous. You cannot make an effort to be effortless. That is like trying to bite your own teeth. Or like a person hearing a funny joke and then stopping to think, I must laugh now to show I understand. The real laugh comes from nowhere. It happens to you. When this realization dawns, life ceases to be a problem. It becomes a game, a very serious game, sometimes. A tragic game, sometimes. But a game nonetheless, and you can play a serious game without taking it seriously. A good chess player is utterly absorbed in the game. He cares deeply, but he does not think. The fate of the universe rests on whether he wins or loses. He knows it's chess, so you can go about your life. You can do your job, raise your family, pay your bills, but you do it with a lightness. You do it as an expression, not as a means of validation. You work not because you have to prove you are a worthy person, but because the work is there to be done, like a mountain is there to be climbed. This is what is called working for the work's sake, singing for the song's sake. It is action without attachment. You pour yourself completely into the moment, and then you let it go. You don't cling to the result. A cat does not pursue a mouse because it has a philosophy of predation. It does it because it is a cat. It is totally absorbed in the pursuit. It is a perfect expression of cattiness. And when the moment is over, it is over. The cat stretches and goes to sleep. It doesn't lie awake wondering if it was a good cat or if it could have caught the mouse more efficiently. It is simply itself. We can learn from that. We can learn to be simply ourselves. Not the idea of ourselves, but the living, breathing, immediate reality of ourselves. When you are no longer defending a fragile self-image, you become incredibly strong. Criticism doesn't shatter you. Failure doesn't define you. Success doesn't inflate you. You can flow with circumstances. You can adapt. You can be like water, which is soft and yielding, yet which can eventually wear away the hardest rock. This is not passivity. This is supreme intelligence. It is action that is in accord with the total situation, not just with your narrow, selfish desire. It is the action of the whole universe expressing itself through you. So you see, the answer to the burden of seriousness is not to become frivolous. It is to become playful. To see the cosmos as it is, a joyous, spontaneous, and yes, sometimes painful dance. And to see yourself not as a lonely dancer, but as the dance itself. But the dance has a rhythm. It has a certain pattern. And to understand that pattern is to understand the deepest joke of all. Now, having seen the weight of our self-constructed seriousness, and having glimpsed the illusion of the separate solitary ego, we are left with a question, not a question to be answered, but an invitation to participate. What is left when you are not busy building a monument to yourself? What remains when the constant narration in your head, the commentary, the judgment, the planning begins to quiet down? What remains is the experience itself, the raw, unfiltered isness of things, the feeling of the wind on your skin, the sound of a distant bird, the coolness of water. This is not a trivial reality. This is the fundamental reality. The world is not something you have to figure out. It is something to be tasted, touched, heard, and seen. You are not a passenger in the universe being taken for a ride. You are the universe experiencing itself. The eyes you look out of are not your personal possession. They are the eyes of life itself, looking out at its own creation. The energy that animates your body is the same energy that spins the galaxies. This is not a mystical fantasy. This is the most practical thing in the world. When you know this, not just as an idea, but as a feeling in your bones, your relationship with everything changes. You begin to see that life is not a journey with a destination. It is a musical thing. You are here to sing, to dance, to play. But we have been taught that playing is frivolous, that it is only for children. But I ask you, what is the alternative? All work and no play does not just make Jack a dull boy. It makes him a nervous wreck. It makes him a tyrant. It makes him a machine. The alternative is to join the dance, to understand that your very existence is your justification. You do not need permission to be. You do not need to earn the right to be here. You are here because you are here, just as a rose is red because it is a rose. So how does one live this way? You don't try. Trying is the energy of the separate ego, the energy of seriousness. You simply begin to notice. You notice the moments when you are already not trying. The moment you are captivated by a piece of music and forget yourself. The moment you are so absorbed in a conversation that time stops. The moment you are walking in nature and your endless internal chatter simply ceases. In those moments, you are there. You are fully present. And in that presence, there is no problem. There is only the dance. The goal is not to make those moments happen. The goal is to notice that they are always available, because the dance is always happening. Your very breathing is part of it. Your heartbeat is the drum beat. This is the great liberation. To understand that you are already free. You are already what you are seeking. You are not going to become happy, peaceful, or enlightened at some future date. You can only be those things now. Any effort to become something is a rejection of what you already are, which is the energy of the cosmos. This does not mean you become passive. Quite the opposite. When you are not wasting energy defending an idea of yourself, you have immense energy available for life. You can act with tremendous efficiency and compassion, because your action is not about you. It is about the situation itself. It is the universe responding to itself. You become like the Zen archer, who does not shoot the arrow. It shoots. There is no arrogant archer separate from the bow, the arrow, and the target. There is only the one event, the shooting. This is action without strain. This is wu-wei. And so the call to action is not a call to do something new. It is a call to see something you have been overlooking. It is a call to trust. To trust yourself, to trust your own nature, and the nature of which you are a part. Yes, this is a risk. Life will sometimes let you down with a wallop. But the alternative, the life of total mistrust, of control, of constant surveillance of yourself and the world, that is not a life at all. That is a prison of your own making. The call is to let go, to join the dance that has been going on for billions of years, to sing the song that is already singing itself through you. You are under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. You are under no obligation to be serious. You are under no obligation to justify your existence. Your only obligation, if there is one, is to be true to the deepest truth of your being, that you are a unique, irreplaceable, and temporary expression of the whole universe. And the universe is not serious. It is playful. It is joyful. It is a great cosmic game of hide and seek, where it is both the hider and the seeker. So, go on, play, experiment, be foolish, be magnificent, fail gloriously, succeed lightly, love, lose, feel it all. But whatever you do, don't miss the show by being too busy looking for the meaning behind it. The meaning is in the music. The meaning is in the dance. And you are the music. You are the dance. You see, the great cosmic joke is that everyone is trying to arrive somewhere they've never actually left. Isn't that strange? The whole of our modern life is built on this curious illusion that there's a point in the future just around the corner where life will finally begin. We imagine it when we get the right job, or find the right person, or earn enough, or meditate long enough, or become spiritually awake enough. But as a matter of fact, the thing we're searching for is the thing that's already happening right now. Let me put it this way. You can't become what you already are, any more than a wave can become water. It is water. The search itself is the disguise, the game of pretending to be lost so that we can enjoy the adventure of finding ourselves again. Now then, most people don't see this because they've been trained since birth to think of life as a journey, in a straight road from A to B, from ignorance to wisdom, from sin to salvation, from childhood to success. But the funny thing about a journey like that is it always keeps the present moment just slightly out of reach, always something to strive toward, always a horizon to chase. And so you end up running on a treadmill that never moves. You know, I once compared time to the grooves on a record. The needle runs along, playing the melody of existence, but every note is happening now. The past isn't something behind you. It's a memory echoing in this very instant. The future isn't somewhere ahead. It's an idea shimmering in your imagination. There is, in truth, only this continuous, eternal now. But the human mind, the tricky fellow that it is, wants to grasp this moment and make it last. It wants to freeze it like a photograph to say, there it is, I've got it. And the moment it tries, it slips through its fingers. You see, the present isn't a thing you can hold. It's more like a song you can only hear by letting it move. Try to stop it, and it disappears. Now, here's the real mischief. The more you chase the future, the more it runs away. It's like trying to catch your own shadow. The faster you go, the further it flees. And so you become haunted by this feeling of incompleteness, this vague anxiety that something is missing, that you are missing. But let me ask you something. Who is it exactly that's missing? What is this you that's supposed to arrive? The mind creates an image, a better version of yourself, more peaceful, more enlightened, more in control. And that image becomes your God. You kneel before it in silent worship, forever praying to become what you already are. Isn't it funny? The more we seek awakening, the more we affirm our own sleep. Because seeking implies that the thing we want is somewhere else. Yet awakening is precisely the seeing that there's nowhere else to go. You can't wake up later. Now then, imagine a cat sitting in the sun. It's not thinking, if I just purr hard enough, I'll finally become a proper cat. It doesn't strive to be, it is. And that's why it's so effortlessly itself. Whereas we, with all our cleverness, are forever running in circles around our own being, mistaking movement for progress. You've already arrived, but you don't believe it, because it doesn't feel like arrival. You were expecting fireworks, a certificate from the universe, some cosmic pat on the back saying, congratulations, you made it. But instead, there's just this quiet hum of existence, this breath, this moment. And because we've been conditioned to believe that ordinary life is somehow unspiritual, we overlook it. We chase transcendence, all the while trampling the sacred ground beneath our own feet. The birds outside your window, the sound of your breathing, the simple act of being, this is it. Not preparation for it. It. You see, reality is not a path, it's a dance floor. And the point of dancing is not to arrive somewhere, but to move, to express, to play. But we've forgotten how to play because we've taken the whole thing much too seriously. We think existence is an exam we might fail instead of a performance we're meant to enjoy. Now then, the question is not how to reach enlightenment, but how to notice that you are never separate from it. Now then, most people ask, if I've already arrived, why doesn't it feel that way? Well, you see, that's because feeling is a kind of echo. The mind is always a few seconds behind the music. You notice happiness after it's happened. You recognize clarity once the clouds have already passed. In other words, you're always looking at life in the rearview mirror, wondering why the road seems to move while you stay still. But what if the whole trick of life is that you are the road, that everything you've ever been chasing, peace, purpose, love, awakening, has never been ahead or behind, but simply here, wearing the disguise of the ordinary? The reason only a few ever glimpse this is because the rest are busy trying to understand it. The intellect, clever as it is, keeps chewing on the words like a dog with a bone, thinking that meaning is something you swallow rather than something you notice. You see, awakening isn't an achievement. It's the collapse of the one who thought he had to achieve it. Let me put it this way. A fish doesn't need to understand the ocean to swim, and you don't need to understand the present moment to live in it. But the moment you try to explain it, you step outside it, just slightly, like trying to see your own eyes without a mirror. Isn't it funny how we do that? We keep asking, what's the purpose of life, as though life were a riddle to be solved, when in fact, it's the solver who's the riddle. Life has no purpose apart from living, just as music has no destination apart from being played. If the meaning of a song were only in its final note, you'd never listen to the melody. You'd rush through it to get to the end. And that's precisely what most of us are doing with our lives. We hurry, we strive, we accumulate. Not because we need more, but because we're terrified of stopping. Stillness feels like death to the ego. Yet, it's in stillness that the self begins to dissolve into something infinitely larger. Like a drop of water returning to the ocean, it doesn't lose itself, it realizes itself. Now, the odd thing about awakening is that it's often mistaken for despair in the beginning, because when the walls of illusion start to crumble, you see how much of your life was built on make-believe. The stories, the roles, the endless performing, gone. And at first, that feels like loss. You think, my God, I'm disappearing. But what's actually vanishing is the mask, not the face behind it. You know, people say they want enlightenment, but what they really mean is they want to feel good all the time. But awakening isn't about feeling good, it's about seeing clearly. And once you see clearly, even your sadness becomes sacred. You stop dividing the world into good and bad, spiritual and unspiritual, success and failure. You see it all as one magnificent play, sometimes tragic, sometimes comic, but always whole. And here's the curious paradox. When you stop running from discomfort, it begins to soften. When you stop trying to fix the moment begins to breathe again. Because resistance is what makes life feel hard. The river doesn't struggle to flow, it only struggles when it meets the dam we've built across it. The dam of judgment, expectation, and fear. So, when I say, you've already arrived, I'm not inviting you to complacency. I'm inviting you to intimacy with this very breath, this sound, this fleeting second that will never happen again. To see that this right now is the miracle. The awakening is not in some future paradise. It's in this cup of tea, this heartbeat, this quiet awareness listening to my words. There's nothing missing. There never was. Now then, when you begin to see this, really see it, something inside relaxes for the first time. You stop trying to hold your breath in eternity. You begin to trust that life is carrying you, even when you don't know where. That's what I mean by arrival. It's not a destination, it's a surrender. You see, the reason so few people awaken is not because it's difficult, but because it's too simple. The mind is always looking for something complicated to do, some mountain to climb, some riddle to solve, and when it's told that the truth is already here, it refuses to believe it. It's as if someone spent years searching for their glasses, only to discover they've been on their nose the whole time. And isn't that funny? You can't see what's seeing. You can't stand apart from awareness to catch it. You are it. Awareness can never be grasped because it's doing the grasping. So the whole pursuit of awakening, all the striving, the techniques, the comparisons, that's the dream trying to wake itself up. It's perfectly fine as a game, you understand, but it's only a game. Because what you truly are doesn't need improvement, just recognition. Now, people often say to me, but if I stop striving, won't I become lazy, passive, indifferent? Not at all. You see, when action springs from understanding rather than ambition, it becomes graceful. It's like the way a tree grows or a river flows, without effort, without anxiety. The doing happens naturally once the doer stops interfering. When you know you've already arrived, you no longer chase experience like a collector chasing butterflies. You stop pinning the moment to the wall. You simply let it flutter, alive and free. And ironically, that's when joy returns, because joy was never lost. It was just smothered under all the trying. You begin to notice small things again. The pattern of light through the window, the taste of morning air, the laughter of a stranger on the street. You're no longer measuring them against what they should be. You're simply seeing, and that's awakening, not fireworks in the sky, but the quiet recognition that even the most ordinary instant is sacred beyond words. Now then, this realization doesn't make you special. It makes you real, because the one who thought he was special, the one chasing awakening like a trophy, dissolves. And what's left is just life, breathing itself, perfectly at ease. Now then, when you finally stop trying to arrive, you begin to notice that everything has already arrived. The clouds are moving without effort, the trees are swaying without purpose, and your heart beats without your permission. You realize that life doesn't need your supervision. It's astonishingly self-sufficient. Isn't it funny? We humans are the only creatures who think the universe can't manage without our advice. We worry about becoming enlightened, as though existence had made a terrible mistake by not consulting us first. But the stars aren't worrying, the rivers aren't worrying, even your breath, that subtle tide of in and out, goes on perfectly without you doing a thing. And this is the final irony. The moment you stop chasing awakening, awakening catches you. It was never hiding, you were simply running too fast to notice. It stands behind every breath, beneath every thought, whispering, welcome home. Now, what happens when you live from that realization? You stop acting out of fear. You stop performing life and start participating in it. You become spontaneous again, like a child building sandcastles, knowing the tide will come, but building anyway because play itself is the reward. You stop demanding guarantees. You stop trying to outsmart impermanence. You begin to trust the rhythm of things, the arising and the falling, the blooming and the fading. Let me put it this way. The wave doesn't cling to the sea foam and say, stay. It rises, dances, collapses. And in that collapse it finds its return. That's what you are. The universe playing at being a person disappearing into its own laughter. When you understand this, and I mean really understand it, a strange peace enters the heart. You no longer need to control everything. You no longer measure your worth in victories or awakenings or moments of clarity. You see that even confusion has its place in the dance. You begin to love the whole performance, the good, the bad, the absurd, because it's all one act. And so the invitation is simple. Stop waiting for the grand finale. Stop postponing your existence for a future version of yourself. Now, let me tell you something about seeing people clearly. We spend so much time looking at others, judging them, forming opinions, deciding who they are and what they're worth. But most of what we see is costume and mask. We see the performance, the act, the carefully constructed image that people present to the world. And we mistake this for reality. But there are two things, just two simple things, that will show you who someone really is. Not what they say they are, not what they hope to be or what they wish you would think of them, but what they actually are, underneath all the pretense and posturing. The first thing to watch is how they behave when there's nothing in it for them, when there's no audience to impress, no reward to chase, no advantage to gain. Do they still show up? Do they still care? Do they still act with decency and kindness? Or does the whole performance collapse the moment the spotlight moves away? You see, most people are quite wonderful when it serves their interests. The salesman is charming when he wants your money. The politician is compassionate when he wants your vote. The lover is attentive when he wants your affection. But what happens when the transaction is complete? What happens when there's nothing more to get from you? This is when the mask slips. This is when you see the real person standing there, perhaps confused that they even have to keep pretending now that the deal is done. Watch how someone treats the waiter who has already brought the food. Watch how they speak to the person who has no power over them, who can offer them nothing, who is simply another human being standing before them. I remember watching a man once in a restaurant. He was quite important, or at least he thought he was. Important job, expensive suit, the whole production. And he was dining with someone equally impressive, someone who could advance his career. You should have seen the performance. The smiles, the laughter, the careful attention to every word his companion spoke. He was the very picture of charm and consideration. But when the waiter came to refill his water, he didn't even glance up. When the busboy bumped his chair by accident, he snapped at him without breaking his conversation with the important person. The young man who brought more bread to the table might as well have been invisible. And right there, in those tiny moments that he thought didn't matter, his true character revealed itself. Because you see, character is not what you do when people are watching. Character is what you do when no one important is looking. When there's no credit to claim, no reputation to protect, no game to win. That's when the truth comes out, like water finding its level. The second thing to watch, and this is equally important, is what amuses them, what makes them laugh. Not the polite laughter of social occasions, but the genuine, spontaneous laughter that bubbles up when they forget to control it, because laughter is one of the most honest things about us. When someone laughs at cruelty, at the misfortune of others, at jokes that demean and diminish, you're seeing something real. They can say all the right things about compassion and kindness. They can speak beautifully about justice and fairness. But if they're giggling at someone else's pain, if they find humor in humiliation, if they're amused by meanness disguised as wit, then you know what's actually living in their heart. I once knew a woman who spoke constantly about her love of humanity, about her dedication to helping others, about her spiritual nature. She had all the right books on her shelf, all the right ideas in her head. But she would laugh, really laugh, when someone told stories about making others feel small. When someone described an embarrassing moment for another person, her eyes would light up. When gossip turned cruel, she leaned in closer. And there it was, the real person, showing herself in those unguarded moments of laughter. Because you can control your words, you can manage your image, you can present yourself as anything you wish to appear to be. But laughter is involuntary. It comes from somewhere deeper than the thinking mind, somewhere more honest than the performing self. Show me what makes a person laugh, and I'll show you what they really value. Show me what they find funny, and I'll show you what they truly believe about the world and the people in it. The person who laughs with genuine joy, at kindness, at absurdity, at the playful innocence of life, they're revealing something beautiful. The person who laughs at suffering, at weakness, at the struggles of others, they're revealing something else entirely. Now you might say this seems too simple. Surely understanding someone's character is more complex than watching two things. And yes, humans are complex creatures. We contain multitudes. We contradict ourselves. We're capable of both cruelty and compassion, sometimes in the same afternoon. But these two things, how people behave when there's nothing to gain, and what genuinely amuses them, these cut through all the complexity. They bypass the thinking mind, the strategic self, the image maker. They show you what happens when the controls are off, when the guard is down, when the person simply is, rather than tried to be. Think about it this way. Every person you meet is performing a role to some degree. They're playing the part of the successful professional, the devoted friend, the spiritual seeker, the sophisticated person, whatever identity they've constructed. And some of these performances are quite convincing. People can maintain them for years. But the performance requires effort. It requires attention. It requires the person to remember their lines and hit their marks. And there are moments, brief moments, when the effort relaxes, when they forget to act, when they simply react. Those moments when there's nothing to gain, that's when the effort drops. Why pretend for the waiter? Why be kind to the janitor? Why treat the homeless person with dignity? There's nothing in it for you. And so if the kindness was only ever a costume, it comes off. But if the kindness is real, if it comes from something deeper than strategy, then it continues. It flows naturally. Because it's not work to be kind. It's simply what you are. And those moments of laughter, those are equally unguarded. Laughter happens too quickly for the strategic mind to catch. It erupts before you can think about how it looks or what it says about you, and so it reveals what's actually there, underneath all the careful construction of image. I'm not talking about occasional slips. Everyone has bad days. Everyone has moments of impatience or thoughtlessness. What I'm pointing to is the pattern, the consistent way someone shows up when they think the moment doesn't count, the habitual response they have to other people's pain or joy. There was a teacher I knew once, years ago, who was famous for his wisdom and compassion. Students would travel great distances to learn from him. He spoke beautifully about love and understanding and the interconnectedness of all beings. And for a long time I was quite impressed by him. But then I started to notice small things. The way he would ignore the people who cooked his meals and cleaned his rooms. The way he would dismiss questions from students he considered less intelligent. The way he would laugh, a particular kind of sharp laughter, when someone made a mistake or appeared foolish. And gradually I realized that all his beautiful words were just words. The real man, the one who existed when there was no benefit to being the wise teacher, was someone else entirely. Someone impatient with anyone who couldn't serve his image. Someone who found amusement in the stumbling of others. The contrast between his performance and his reality was so stark that it became almost comical. Here was a man teaching about compassion, while treating the people right in front of him with casual indifference. Here was a man speaking about the illusion of the ego, while carefully maintaining his own image as the enlightened master. And the saddest part was not his hypocrisy, though that was sad enough. The saddest part was that he seemed to genuinely believe his own performance. He thought the role he was playing was who he actually was. This is what happens when we don't pay attention to these two things. We get lost in the story people tell about themselves. We believe the performance. We confuse the actor with the role, and then we're surprised when the person we thought we knew turns out to be someone entirely different. But if you watch how someone behaves when there's nothing in it for them, you won't be surprised. You'll see clearly. You'll know who you're dealing with. And if you notice what genuinely amuses them, what makes them laugh when they forget to control it, you'll understand what's actually living in their heart. Now here's something interesting. Once you start paying attention to these two things, you'll also start noticing them in yourself. You'll catch yourself being short with someone who can't advance your interests. You'll notice yourself laughing at something cruel or mean-spirited. And in those moments, you'll see your own character revealing itself. This is actually good news because you can't change what you don't see. As long as you're identified with your own performance, as long as you believe your carefully constructed image is who you really are, you're stuck. But when you start to see the gap between the role and the reality, between who you pretend to be and who you actually are, then something can shift. You might discover that you're kinder than you thought in some ways and less kind than you believed in others. You might find that what amuses you says something about your values that you hadn't quite admitted to yourself. This seeing, this honest looking at yourself without the filter of self-justification, is the beginning of real change. Because character is not fixed. It's not something you're born with and stuck with forever. Character is like a muscle. Every time you refuse to laugh at cruelty, even when everyone else is laughing, you're making a choice about who you want to be. But you have to see first. You have to be willing to look at how you actually behave, not how you think you behave or wish you behaved. You have to be willing to notice what actually makes you laugh, not what you think should make you laugh. And the same applies to understanding others. We can't see people clearly if we're only looking at their performance. We have to watch the small moments, the unguarded reactions, the times when they forget to manage their image. That's where the truth lives. So here's what I'm suggesting. For the next while, when you meet someone, notice how they treat people who can do nothing for them. Do they see the person cleaning the floor? Do they thank the person who holds the door? Do they speak kindly to the child who interrupts their important conversation? And notice what makes them laugh. Is their humor generous or mean? Do they find joy in life's absurdities or in other people's failures? Do they laugh with people or at them? You'll be amazed at what you discover. You'll see through so many performances. You'll understand people with a clarity that seemed impossible before. And perhaps most importantly, you'll start to see yourself more clearly too. The art of seeing character is really very simple. Don't listen to what people say. Listen to what makes them laugh when they forget to control themselves. Everything else is just theater, just costume and mask. But these two things, these will show you the truth every time. And once you can see clearly, you can choose clearly. Not based on their performance, but based on who they actually are when the curtain comes down and the audience goes home. This is not about judging others, this is about seeing clearly, about recognizing reality instead of believing in fantasies, about understanding that the most important thing about any person is not what they claim to be, but what they actually are in the small moments that they think don't count. Because those moments count more than anything else. You threw yourself into these games with complete conviction. You were absolutely the cowboy, totally the mother serving imaginatively cookers. But you never forgot, not really, that it was play. The moment your mother called you for dinner, you dropped the role without a second thought. You didn't cling to being the cowboy. You didn't suffer an identity crisis when the game ended. But somewhere along the way, we forgot how to play. We became what I call method actors in the theater of life. We got so absorbed in our roles that we forgot we were acting. We started believing that we really are the banker, the housewife, the success, the failure. And when you forget you're playing a role, the game becomes a prison. Now, when I say life is a game, I don't mean it's trivial or meaningless. Games can be incredibly important. He plays with intensity, with passion, with everything he's got. But he maintains what we might call a light touch. The first rule of this cosmic game is perhaps the most startling. You are not who you think you are. The person you call by your name, with your particular history, your specific worries and dreams, that's just your character in the game. It's a mask, a role you're playing so convincingly that you fooled even yourself. But who is the real you? That's where it gets interesting. The real you is the player, not the character. You are the awareness that can observe thoughts, feelings, sensations. You are the space in which all experiences arise and dissolve. You are, if you will, the stage on which the entire drama unfolds. Once you see this, really see it, the game changes completely. You realize you've been like an actor who got so lost in his role that he forgot he could take off the costume and go home. Suddenly you remember, you are not trapped in the character. You can play it skillfully, enjoy it thoroughly, but you don't have to be imprisoned by it. Here's another rule that most players miss entirely. The game has no final winning condition. There is no ultimate prize, no finish line where you can finally declare victory and retire. The whole point of the game is the playing itself. We've been taught to think of life as a journey, with a destination. But it's much more like music or dancing. You don't dance to get to a particular spot on the floor. You don't listen to a symphony to get to the final note. The meaning is in the movement, in the flowing, in the playing. But we've turned life into a race. We rush through childhood to get to adulthood. We hurry through school to get to our careers. We work frantically to reach retirement. And then we sit in our rocking chairs, wondering where it all went. We were so busy trying to get somewhere else that we missed the only place we ever actually were, which is here, now, in this moment. The game is always happening now. Not tomorrow when you'll be happier, not yesterday when things were better, but right now. This is the only time the game is actually being played. Yet most of us are like people at a concert who spend the entire performance reading the program notes, trying to figure out what's coming next instead of listening to the music that's playing right now. Another fascinating aspect of this game is that it's completely rigged in your favor. How's that? Well, no matter what happens to you, no matter what role you find yourself playing, you can't actually lose, because you are not just your character. You are the entire game itself. Think of it this way. In a dream, you might be chased by a monster, and it feels terrifying. But when you wake up, you realize you were both the one being chased and the monster doing the chasing. You were the entire dream. In the same way, you are not just one player in the cosmic game. You are the game playing itself. This might sound like mystical nonsense, but consider this. Every person who irritates you, every situation that challenges you, they're all part of your experience. They exist in your awareness. In a very real sense, the entire universe as you know it is happening inside your consciousness. You are not a small separate being struggling in a hostile world. You are the world, looking at itself through the eyes of what you call you. Once you get this joke, and it is a cosmic joke of the highest order, your whole approach to living changes. You stop taking everything so personally. When someone criticizes you, instead of getting defensive, you might think, here's the universe playing the role of the critic. How interesting. What can I learn from this performance? When you're facing a difficult situation, instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You might ask, why am I happening to this? Because if you are the entire game, then you are not the victim of circumstances. You are circumstances, appearing to yourself as challenges to make the game interesting. Now let me address something important. This doesn't mean you become passive or indifferent. Far from it. When you know you're playing a game, you can play it with tremendous skill and enthusiasm. You can care deeply about your moves while not being devastated, if they don't work out perfectly. You can love fully while not being destroyed, if that love isn't returned. You can work passionately while not being crushed, if your efforts don't immediately succeed. The secret is what I call playing with a light touch. It's like being a great jazz musician. You know the basic structure of the song, but you're always ready to improvise. You respond to what the other musicians are doing. You don't try to force the music into some predetermined pattern. You flow with it, play with it, dance with it. Most people approach life like they're playing classical music with a very strict conductor. Every note must be exactly as written. There's no room for spontaneity, no space for creativity. But life is much more like jazz. The basic rhythm is there, but within that rhythm, infinite possibilities exist for improvisation and play. Here's one of the most liberating rules of the game. You don't have to be consistent. You are under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. The character you've been playing, with all its limitations and problems, is not a permanent fixture. It's more like clothing you can change. We spend so much energy defending our self-image, protecting our reputation, maintaining our personality. But what if you could be anyone you choose to be in each moment? What if instead of being trapped by your past, you could reinvent yourself constantly? Not in a crazy, unstable way, but in a fluid, creative way that allows you to respond freshly to each situation. Children do this naturally. One moment they're a princess, the next they're a dragon, then they're a race car driver. They don't worry about consistency. They don't think, but wait, yesterday I was a princess, so I can't be a dragon today. And here's the beautiful thing. Every person you meet is you, wearing a different mask, playing a different role. That annoying colleague, that difficult relative, that stranger on the street who smiled at you, they're all you, exploring what it's like to be different characters in the great drama. When you see this, compassion arises naturally. Not the condescending kind of compassion that looks down on others, but the recognition that you're all in this together, all playing parts in the same cosmic theater. This doesn't mean everyone is the same on the surface level. Obviously, people have different personalities, different backgrounds, different ways of playing their roles. But at the deepest level, the awareness looking out through their eyes is the same awareness looking out through yours. We're all windows in the same house, each with a different view, but all part of the same structure. Now, let's talk about one of the trickiest aspects of the game. The part most people find hardest to master. How do you deal with suffering? How do you play skillfully when the game seems to turn against you? When you're dealt what appears to be a losing hand? The first thing to understand is that suffering is not the same as pain. Pain is natural, inevitable. If you stub your toe, it hurts. If someone you love dies, you grieve. These are simply part of the human experience, part of what makes the game interesting and complete. But suffering, that's different. Suffering is the story we tell ourselves about the pain. It's the resistance to what's happening, the demand that life be different than it is. Pain says, this hurts. Suffering says, this shouldn't be happening. It's unfair. It means something terrible about me or my future. When you understand this distinction, you can learn to experience pain without adding the extra layer of suffering. You can feel sadness without the story that you should be happy. You can face challenges without the narrative that you're a victim. You can encounter setbacks without the drama that your life is ruined. Think of it like weather. Sometimes it rains, sometimes it shines. The sky doesn't resist the rain or cling to the sunshine. It simply allows whatever weather is happening to happen. You can approach your inner weather the same way. Sometimes you'll feel joyful, sometimes sad, sometimes confused, sometimes clear. None of these states are permanent. They're all just part of the changing weather of consciousness. Here's another game rule that can save you enormous amounts of energy. You don't have to have an opinion about everything. You don't have to judge every experience as good or bad, right or wrong. Sometimes you can simply say, how interesting, and leave it at that. We've been trained to constantly evaluate, to always be deciding whether we like or dislike what's happening. But this constant judging is exhausting. It's like being a critic who can't simply enjoy a movie because they're too busy analyzing every scene. Sometimes you can just watch, just experience, just be present, without needing to have a position about it all. The master player learns to hold their opinions lightly. They might have preferences, but they don't cling to them. They can enjoy their favorite food without being upset when it's not available. The moment you think you have it all figured out, life will throw you a curveball. The moment you get comfortable with your role, circumstances will invite you to play a different part. Instead of resisting these surprises, you can learn to welcome them. They keep the game interesting. Imagine playing chess with someone who always made the same moves, or watching a movie where you knew exactly what would happen next. How boring would that be? The surprises, the plot twists, the unexpected turns, these are what make life an adventure rather than a tedious routine. When you stop needing to control every detail, when you develop what we might call a taste for surprise, you begin to find life endlessly fascinating rather than constantly frustrating. Now, one of the most liberating discoveries you can make about this game is that there are no real mistakes, only experiences. What you call failures are just experiments that didn't work out as expected. What you call successes are experiments that exceeded your expectations. But they're all just data points in the grand experiment of being human. A child learning to walk doesn't call it failure when they fall down. We think we should be able to do everything perfectly on the first try. We think mistakes are signs of inadequacy rather than natural parts of the learning process. We turn every stumble into evidence that we're somehow deficient. What if you could approach your whole life with the same attitude that child has toward learning to walk? What if every mistake was just information? Every failure, just feedback? How much lighter would you feel if you weren't carrying around all that self-judgment about your imperfect performance? Here's something else about this game that might surprise you. The best players are often the ones who appear to be playing the least. They move through life with a kind of effortless ease, not because they don't care, but because they've learned to work with the natural flow rather than against it. It's like the difference between swimming upstream and floating downstream. Both require skill, but one is exhausting while the other is energizing. When you understand the currents of life, when you learn to read the patterns of existence, you can accomplish much more with much less effort. This doesn't mean being lazy or passive. It means being intelligent about when to act and when to wait, when to push and when to yield. It means developing what the Chinese call wu wei, which is often translated as non-action, but really means action that is perfectly appropriate to the situation, like water flowing around rocks in a stream. Water doesn't try to fight the rock. It simply flows around it, and in doing so, it gradually wears the rock away. This is the power of the gentle approach, the light touch. The skillful player who understands that force is rarely the answer to life's challenges. Another crucial aspect of mastering this game is learning to play multiple roles simultaneously, without getting confused about which is which. Abunabhausen anamnikal battle. You hear of a point of masteral, and from Bukabal of the Psalms as Tilaza. Each role has its own requirements, its own costume, its own way of being. The skillful player can move fluidly between these roles without losing their center. They can be tough in business negotiations and tender with their children. They can be a student in one context and a teacher in another. They don't get stuck in any single identity. Most people make the mistake of trying to be the same person in every situation. They think authenticity means never changing, never adapting. But real authenticity is being appropriate to each moment, each relationship, each context. It's like being a skilled actor who can play many parts convincingly, because they understand the deeper truth that connects all roles. Now let me tell you about one of the most profound discoveries you can make about this game. The rules are not fixed. They can change, and often do, based on how you choose to play. This is where the game becomes truly magical. Most games have rigid rules that everyone must follow. But the game of life is more like a collaborative improvisation, where the rules evolve as you play. Your choices, your attitudes, your ways of being actually influence how the game unfolds for you. If you approach life with fear and suspicion, you tend to encounter situations that confirm your fears. If you approach it with curiosity and openness, you tend to find opportunities and adventures. If you play the role of the victim, you'll find plenty of people willing to play the villain. If you play the role of the hero, you'll discover your own capacity for courage and creativity. This isn't just positive thinking or wishful fantasy. It's recognition that consciousness is not passive. It's not just observing reality. It's participating in its creation. Your awareness, your attention, your choices are all active ingredients in the unfolding of your experience. Here's one of the most beautiful aspects of the game. Everyone gets to win, but not in the way we usually think of winning. The usual idea of winning involves someone else losing. But in this cosmic game, your victory doesn't require anyone else's defeat. In fact, the more skillfully you play, the more you help everyone else play skillfully too. When you're truly happy, you don't make others miserable. You inspire them to find their own happiness. When you're genuinely peaceful, you don't create conflict. You help others discover their own peace. When you're authentically yourself, you don't diminish others. You encourage them to be authentically themselves. This is why the masters, the really skillful players, often seem to be playing an entirely different game from everyone else. They're not competing, they're not trying to prove anything. They're not keeping score, they're simply playing for the pure joy of playing, and somehow everyone around them starts playing better too. Let me share one final rule, perhaps the most important one. The game never actually ends. What you call death is just changing costumes, changing roles, changing the scenery. The player, the real you, the awareness that has been watching this whole performance that continues, when you truly understand this, it changes everything. You stop being so desperate to cling to your current role. You stop being so terrified of change. You realize that you are not just playing in the game. You are the game, playing itself, exploring infinite possibilities through countless characters and stories. And so here we are, at the end of our little exploration together, though of course there is no real end, just as there was no real beginning. There is only this eternal now, this endless game, this magnificent play of consciousness discovering itself through every possible form and experience. The next time you find yourself taking life too seriously, remember what I've told you today. You are not a struggling individual trying to survive in a hostile universe. You are the universe itself, playing at being an individual, exploring what it's like to apparently struggle, apparently succeed, apparently fail, apparently win. It's all play. It's all dancing. It's all music. And you are both the composer who won the sung, the dance around the divan. Play skillfully, play joyfully, play with that light touch that comes from knowing it's all one magnificent cosmic game. And remember, in this game, everyone gets to be the winner. Because everyone is you, and you are everyone, and we're all just the one consciousness, playing at being many. The game never ends. It only changes form. And what a delightful game it is.